Feige and Marvel, they desperately need a win, and that needs to come with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, because right now we've seen that conversation with Marvel is, are they dead? What, is the MCU Magic gone? And even I myself, when Quantumania came out, even though in a thumbs up, thumbs down world, I gave Quantumania a good review. I still thought it was a pretty decent, solid movie. I enjoyed it. But I felt when Quantumania, when I left the theater, I didn't leave raving, this movie is great, this movie is fantastic, I can't wait to rewatch it with my friends, because that's what became the standard with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It became that most of their films were great, were fantastic, and you could come back to rewatch it because of how good it was. And that's what I did personally. I would rewatch the movies with friends, I would enjoy the heck out of the films, and I'd have a lot of fun predicting what is the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But in the last year or so, last 2 years, I think it really felt that way once Thor Love and Thunder came out. And it had felt like Marvel's magic, that flavor that they once had, felt non-existent. Because to me personally, at least, and I'm talking about me personally, when Phase 4 began, I think it started off amazing with WandaVision. WandaVision to me was, and it still is to me, my favorite Disney Plus series. WandaVision came out, and not only that, but it came out with a shock because I didn't expect it to be that good. I'm being completely honest. I didn't think WandaVision was going to be all that great. So heading into WandaVision, I was expecting probably a Marvel mediocre show. But now it brought out this glimmer that Marvel can do television if they want to, especially because that was the debut, not just for Phase 4, but the Disney Plus Marvel television series. And then Black Widow came out, and it was mediocre. I rewatched that movie recently, and I thought it was mediocre. I thought that the same thing when I watched the movie in theaters. But then they had Falcon Winter Soldier, which I think came out before Loki, and it felt like there was a little bit of, the big complaint at the time was it felt like we didn't know what was going on, which I was all right with because I'm like, hey, it's just a couple projects. It's all right. We'll wait till the future. But for what I thought was Falcon and Winter Soldier was decent. Honestly, I'm going to say this right now. I've never rewatched Falcon and Winter Soldier because I just didn't really like it all that much, to be honest. Then Loki came out, and I enjoyed Loki, except 2 of the episodes were really, really poor. So I didn't really end up loving Loki as much as I genuinely thought I was. But then Shang-Chi came out, and I love Shang-Chi. Then Eternals came out. Now, Shang-Chi to me kind of kept the ball rolling for me for my love of the MCU. Then Eternals came out. Now, at the time, I loved Eternals. But the more time passes by, and I rewatched it for the first time I think it was in January at this point. I rewatched it, and I still like the movie. I still think it's a good movie. Again, all films subjective. I know a lot of y'all are going to type on your keyboard saying, no, Isaac, I disagree. I don't care. That's just my thoughts. Eternals, rewatched it, and I thought, it's a good movie, but it's not Marvel magic. Then No Way Home came out. Boom, struck the ball. And ever since then, it's just kind of felt like a bit of a downhill spiral. While I love Multiverse of Madness, and I really, really do love Multiverse of Madness, like I'm being genuine, that movie did come out and it was a bit mixed. A lot of people were concerned. Hey, what's Marvel's future? Now, at the time, we didn't even know Kang was the villain for the next phase. All we knew is there was going to be multiverse somehow for the rest of the MCU. Then Ms. Marvel came out, and while a lot of people enjoyed that show, not enough people watched it. I still, to this day, not just in real life, but on the internet, I'll see a lot of people have yet to watch Ms. Marvel. So much so I had someone message me saying, do I have to watch Ms. Marvel to get the Marvels trailer? I saw the Marvels trailer and it felt more like a Ms. Marvel movie rather than a Captain Marvel film. And then Thor Love and Thunder to me is when it really, really hit me that the MCU magic seems to be fading away. And then Wakanda Forever, or before that, She-Hulk came out. And I wasn't all that excited for She-Hulk regardless. It's not like I grew up loving She-Hulk or anything like that. But it was a comedy that wasn't very funny to me. And that was met with a lot of divisiveness. And along this way, I started noticing that a lot of the MCU films were coming off divisive after divisive after divisive. You could only list off a couple. WandaVision was loved. Shang-Chi was loved. No Way Home was loved. But everything else was mixed. Everything else was a lot of divisiveness. Even some of the biggest hardcore MCU fans were disagreeing. And it felt like out of nowhere, Marvel, before 2020 or before 2021, it felt like Marvel was this perfect company, this juggernaut that could never be topped, and everyone was trying to copy. Now, along this time period, I said, hey, Marvel's just having a bit of a rough patch. They are coming off their Infinity Saga, and I gave him a little bit of that. I'm always going to give Feige the benefit of the doubt because Feige saved Marvel. Not only did he save Marvel, but he changed cinematic history, and he did something that no one else ever did. Building out 20 movies to this big epic finale, making it a juggernaut that each movie makes a lot more than it should just based on that Marvel name alone. Comic book movies are now the top dog, and it's all because of Feige. But at the same time, though, it feels like that faded away. And so then Wakanda Forever, the trailers dropped, and I was very excited. I know I'm wearing a shirt right now of Wakanda Forever at the back. Yes, Shuri and Baku and Okoye. And while I like the movie, the major difference between the first Black Panther and Black Panther Wakanda Forever is when the first one came out, for months, it was the conversation. And not only that, but applied to it, Infinity War came out like 2 months or 3 months after Black Panther, so it added even more to the conversation. That first Black Panther film made $1 billion. Everyone was talking about T'Challa. Everyone was talking about how much they love Wakanda. Some people even thinking Wakanda is a real country. I'm not even joking. I literally heard that. People were buying merchandise of Black Panther. Everyone loved Black Panther. Everyone was talking about it. Everyone was raving about Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger. People doing Wakandan chants. You know, I saw that everywhere around me. And then Wakanda Forever, while the hype was there for the trailers, the movie comes out, and I felt like within just a couple of days or a week or so, it felt like the conversation kind of died down. And even in the box office, well, yes, 700 million is still a fantastic number. Compared to the first film, it's not that, it's not financially that great. It's great. That number in itself is great, but compared to the first one, not only that, but they really changed something from that Black Panther story that I think really affected it. Obviously, deciding not to recast T'Challa, I think that still is Feige's worst decision so far in his tenure at Marvel, or at least a decision that I know of, because obviously I don't work at Marvel. I'm not going to pretend like I know what every single decision Feige has made. For all I know, maybe he decided Ryan Gosling shouldn't be in the MCU. I don't freaking know. But just looking at it from the outside perspective, that to me was probably the biggest decision that I just thought was the biggest mistake. And Wakanda Forever, I think, suffered. And right, even now, when you talk about Black Panther, people still refer to that first film. I hardly hear anyone talk about Wakanda Forever. I hardly see people talking about how Shuri is the greatest Black Panther. I hardly see that conversation. Even from people that love Wakanda Forever, I don't see them raving that much about the movie anymore. It just kind of felt like it left the pop culture zeitgeist. Then after this, I think before, there's a couple good things. Werewolf by Night I thought was pretty good, which surprised me. The Guardians Holiday Special was really good, which we'll get into that in a bit. But then Quantumania came out, and it hit that final blow to me. It had felt, while I enjoyed the film, it had felt like I've gone to multiple Marvel projects, just leaving the theater feeling empty. I remember watching Ragnarok for the first time in theaters. I remember watching Infinity War, Homecoming, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Volume 1, whatever. And I remember leaving, having loved the film, leaving with a big smile, and I couldn't wait to go to school the next 2 days or 3 days to just talk about how much I really love this film and to go rewatch it many times. With this current MCU, with Wakanda Forever, Love and Thunder, freaking Quantumania, Black Widow, it had felt like out of nowhere that magic I once felt the MCU had, this juggernaut conquering franchise that it once had was gone within a second. No longer do I feel like people listen to the Marvel brand and think we're going to have a great film. Now it feels like every other movie franchise or every other studio. It feels like this could be a good film or this could be a bad film, and we won't know it. It used to feel like every time you went to a Marvel film, you were going to enjoy it. You were going to have fun. Even some of the weaker films. Ant-Man and the Wasp. Iron Man 2, even those, they were just a couple of bumps in the road. But it now feels like those bumps exceeded it. And I know it's taken me a long time to get to my point, but Marvel desperately needs Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 to succeed, not just financially, but critically and especially with the fans and the general audience, obviously. People need to love this film. Now, the advantages that it has for Guardians is this is coming off a franchise that people love. People love the Guardians. They love to see Rocket. The marketing is promoting itself as this epic finale for the Guardians, the goodbye for Rocket. And we've seen that nowadays. A lot of movies do require that in order to get butts in the seats. No Way Home, Endgame, right? Even The Flash, you could even say that one. But that disadvantage is almost like it's starting to creep in. Now, to me, I think Guardians is going to do really well. I think it's going to be a great film. I just bought my tickets for the first Saturday morning. But still, there's so much pressure on it. And while I do think it's going to succeed, and while I think James Gunn is going to deliver another classic masterpiece, it's still looming in my head that I'm going into this movie, while I'm expecting it to be great, I'm not going into this movie thinking Marvel, because Marvel's so good at making greatness, they're going to deliver a great film. I'm going into this movie expecting greatness because it's James Gunn. And I'm going into this movie wondering, will it finally be able to bring back that Marvel magic? That is what I'm going in thinking. That should have never been a thing. I remember a couple years ago, it used to be DC is the younger brother to Marvel because Marvel is so impossible to stop. I remember there was even times where people were having a conversation if the Marvel name itself could just make you $1 billion after the Captain Marvel success. Obviously, we know that's not true. I think everyone should have known that. But still, it's crazy that the conversation has shifted. And it's crazy and bizarre because with Quantumania, that wasn't just another Marvel film. That was the beginning of the Kang Dynasty. That was the beginning of a new era. What is after Thanos? Even the slogan and all the marketing was "A new dynasty begins." Obviously, now that's even more complicated with the Jonathan Majors allegations and all that, which unfortunately Feige has now had to deal with, which is crazy because Marvel had never had to deal with something like that. It used to be that DC had all the baggage. You know, they had Ezra, they had Amber Heard, they have, I don't know, freaking know it. Freaking Jeffrey Dahmer is going to play the next Batman. I don't freaking know. But now Marvel has that with Majors. Now it feels like the House of Marvels finally got its first real amount of damage. But Feige built this castle. Feige built this castle out of straws. I know I'm trying to make a metaphor, but this castle that we once had was here. Then he had Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, the Avengers film, Thor, obviously, Guardians, and they built this amazing castle and this amazing empire. And now it feels like someone blew up like the left side of the castle with a rocket. And now Feige's having to fix that because now there's a hole there. Now that perfect castle that we once had, now there's a hole. And that's something we never expected from Marvel Studios themselves. Again, I'm going into Guardians expecting it to be great. The trailers have been really good, especially that first one. The marketing's doing really well. This is a franchise that people love. Because the one major difference between Ant-Man Quantumania and Guardians Volume 3 is that the Ant-Man films weren't necessarily loved. They were always kind of that in-between movies that came out that people enjoyed, but people enjoyed them because they were usually side stories to the bigger picture in Marvel. While with Guardians, it was people love those first two films. People love seeing them in Infinity War, that they became their own section of Avengers, if you could say. Right? So that is the major difference. I think everyone should expect that this film will do significantly better. I'm not saying it's going to be a better film, which I do think it will be. I'm saying that financially, critically, audience-wise, I think it will just be boosted just from the name alone, from Guardians alone. Because I can guarantee you, as the average moviegoer or the average Marvel fan, who do they prefer, the Guardians or Ant-Man? Most of them are probably going to tell you the Guardians. But that post-Endgame vibe of the MCU is really, really feeling more and more horrible. And not only that, but if Volume 3, let's say it does bad, guarantee you that the entire conversation until the Marvels comes out, or whatever next MCU project comes out, the conversation will be, is Marvel done? Because if Guardians fails, a perfect franchise, a perfect trilogy made by a filmmaker who was promoted to head of DC, and if that film fails, man, for the next couple months, you're going to be hearing the conversation. And not only that, but you're going to have to depend on a movie that was just recently the most disliked MCU trailer of all time, with an actress that people already genuinely hate, with the film that, while yes, it made $1 billion, was still a very divisive film. You're going to have to depend on, if Guardians doesn't do well, you're going to have to depend on that movie to save your dying franchise. Obviously, Marvel's not dying, but you can tell they're almost falling off that pedestal that they once had. But anyways, those are my thoughts. I know it sounds very hyperbolic, but still, you know, as a Marvel fan, as someone who goes to these movies, who loves these movies and invests my money and time, I got a freaking Infinity War poster back there. I got a Endgame shirt right there that I took to Endgame. And I love the Marvel Studios. I love Marvel Cinematic Universe. I love what they've done. And I still thought Phase 4 was pretty solid. It was definitely the weakest out of all the phases, but I still thought it was a genuinely solid, solid phase, right? But these are questions that we do need to ask, because as fans, we do need to wonder, hey, are these companies really making the best movies possible? Are they struggling? Whatever. We still got to talk about it. But anyways, those are my thoughts. Thank you guys for watching this video. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Y'all let me know in the comments what you think about this. Do you agree, disagree? Whatever it is, let us know in the comment section down below. We'll see y'all in the next one. Ciao. Live now, regret later.